Welcome to the Travel Business Unpacked, where passion meets possibility. Here's your host, Meredith Calloway.
Hello, and welcome to the Travel Business Unpacked podcast. I am your host, Meredith Calloway, and on today's episode, I have Jackie Wammock of Travelera Partners. Jackie is an alum of our Travel MBA program. She built a very successful career in commercial real estate, so she comes with that kind of wisdom and experience. And we're going to talk today, at some point, we're going to talk a little bit about how she feels like that start to her career in travel really helped her out, because there's a lot of project management going on in commercial real estate. And anyway, welcome to the show, Jackie. I kind of went off on a tangent there, but welcome to the show. So excited to have you on today's episode.
Thank you. I love your podcast. I've listened, I think, to just about every single episode so far, and I was really honored that you invited me on. So I'm looking forward to having this conversation.
Well, I'm having you on because I think you're fascinating. I think what you represent to me, just like right out of the gate, is someone who came from a very what's the word? Not commercial real estate is somewhat competitive, right? A pretty competitive environment, but it's also like intense. It just there's a lot of things that you're juggling all at once. And there's probably an enormous amount of wisdom you have to like accumulate, knowledge base, to be able to talk educatedly about what you're doing. So I think, similar to someone who's like a doctor or a lawyer, or I think there's a lot of people who overlook the travel professional journey because they think, there really isn't a great standard right now for the elevated professional luxury travel advisor. And I think people like you really give it a lot more credence, or you give it credibility, because someone with that kind of background and success is now having a great experience selling luxury travel. That's what I like about your story. So tell us all about, you went from commercial real estate to thinking about starting a travel business. Well, how did that happen?
It's interesting. I didn't really think about it. During COVID, everything changed. I don't think I would have ever left commercial real estate. I had a career that I loved. I mean, I would sit in meetings, and this is going to sound so ridiculous, and I was like, wow, I can't believe I'm so lucky that I get to work on this project, because I worked on super cool stuff all over the country. I had amazing clients. I mean, and when you're working,
what's super cool stuff? Like tell me, because I dabbled in commercial real estate when I was on Wall Street.
I'll give you kind of the quick, and I did it for 30 years, so there's a lot. But I worked for some really cool companies. I worked on some very high profile development projects. Mall of Georgia, it was one of them. Georgia, Blueback Square in West Hartford, Connecticut. I worked for a very high net worth European individual. He then purchased or bought into a very high-end retail chain with Howard Lester, who basically made Chuck Williams Sonoma. So then I was director of real estate for that company. And sort of at the tail end of my career, I was representing Walmart. I was Walmart's broker in Georgia and Tennessee. Wow. So, you're working on transactions, that are a Walmart Supercenter is $30 million. So that's a lot of responsibility. I loved it. It was great.
That is so cool. See, I knew you were fascinating.
So but then COVID hit, and COVID changed everything. And I think if COVID hadn't happened, I would still be sitting at my desk in Atlanta and not doing this. And, we'd always traveled very extensively, as a family. I mean, I'm a travel addict. And so that was sort of the plan. And once we moved, and my business partner and I gave up half our office space during COVID because we didn't know what this was going to look like. And I just was sort of trying to figure out what to do next. And I was sitting on the front of a sailboat in Croatia, bobbing in the water at 7 o'clock in the morning, with a cup of coffee in my hand. And I just thought, I wonder if I could do this. And my husband walked up and I said, what do you think if I got back into travel? Because my first job right out of the box after university was working as a as a travel agent, which is not what exists anymore. Yeah. And he just said, I think you'd be great at that. And then I had to figure out how to make that happen. So that's sort of, really, it was just sort of like the light bulb went off one day. And then I had to figure out how to make it happen.
Yeah, right.
I thought I was going to go to travel school and maybe go work for American Express or something like that. I didn't realize that the business had evolved as much as it has to where we all are today.
Very few people have realized that. Yeah. That's what I'm trying to change. So yeah, I think commercial real estate might have, I feel like during the pandemic, the travel industry was the hardest hit industry, but commercial real estate might have been harder.
I was on the retail side. It was horrible for my clients. It was really hard. You've got restaurants that are closed. It was problems I couldn't fix, but it came back with a vengeance. So
who knew? Yeah. We said that in travel, but it also came back with a vengeance on the commercial real estate side too. So tell us about, what were you looking for? Like, you knew you wanted to start this business. Did you have a vision for it? Or were you just kind of like, I'll figure this out as I go?
That's a great question. And I could probably spend an hour talking about that. When you've been in, commercial real estate transactions or project management, and I've got a pretty strong legal background, even though I'm not an attorney. So you kind of, I very much knew what I didn't know. I knew that there were a lot of landmines out there. I didn't want to screw anything up. So right off the bat, I started looking for training. Like I knew that even though I was really skilled at planning travel for myself and my family, that's my money. I'm not risking somebody else's money. It's different. I knew that it was going to be completely different at doing it, from an advisory perspective. So I just started searching. It's interesting. Thank God for the Travel MBA program. I walked in the door the first day and I was terrified. Even though I've owned other companies, I've always sort of had like something else going on in addition to real estate career. I was afraid to book a hotel room. I really was, because I knew that I was risking somebody else's money. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So the program, I'm so glad that I found it. It put me on the correct path, and it sort of validated the steps that I needed to take, that I sort of knew I needed to take, and then added on so much knowledge that I had no idea that I needed.
Yeah, right. Exactly. I think that's one of the biggest pieces about our Travel MBA program is that I think people hear about our program and they think it's this pretty intense travel advisor training program, which it is, because we want our Travel MBA students to start selling as soon as they're ready, not necessarily right away, but if they're ready right away, we want them to be able to sell right away. We don't want them to have to wait because it's a business. We want you to be able to start generating cash flow as soon as you possibly can. And there are people come into the program and they've got a network built in. And so some people start selling very, very quickly, others not necessarily, but it's much more than just that travel advisor training program. That's only one component. There's 3 others that are as important, I think. And just like 4 legs to a chair, if you lose one leg, it's still pretty wobbly. And I think if you try and build this 7-figure business with one of those legs missing, it's going to be a pretty rocky road. The other component that I think you're referring to that is the the business school component. Like it's truly, and that's why we named it the Travel MBA, because we really wanted to have people think about this as, this is a program that's going to teach me how to book and sell travel, right? Travel advisor training program. But it's also a program that's going to teach me how to run a business selling travel. And that was probably the parts that were a little bit more unexpected for you, like the workflows. And I mean, so this is a great question. Tell us what surprised you about the business now in reflection, now that you graduated in 23?
Yeah, I think so. So I'm starting my third year.
You're starting your third year. So in reflection, what surprised you and what challenged you?
Well, I was terrified because I'm an adult learner. So I was, going back to school, and I'm the type of person that I'm all in. My husband laughs at me. There's no gray with me. Either I'm completely 100% committed or I'm not doing it. So I knew that when I agreed to come to Mooresville and to sign up for this program, this year-long program, that I was going to be all in. But what surprised me was the technology, and the systems that existed and how much education is out there. That really shocked me, that how there's so many tools that we have that I would never, if I'd had to figure this out for myself, I would still be scrambling. And just to have all that sort of neatly laid out for you, in modules that made sense, and you didn't get ahead of yourself. I mean, Amy was so funny. She's like, I'd ask a question because I'm 6 steps ahead, and she's like, no, I'll tell you later. And it was the right answer. I mean, she's great about that. But it was fantastic because it was like, yeah, I could tell you now, but just wait. So, but it was. So that was surprising that that there was. It was exactly what I was looking for, but I didn't know that that's what I needed, if that makes sense.
Right. Yeah, no, that totally makes sense. So then is there anything that challenged you in the last 3 years that you've kind of had to navigate in a way that you didn't expect?
There were some things that I expected. I didn't expect to be as nervous about it as I was, because I was very fluent in commercial real estate. So for me to get my job done, I don't even have to think about it if I was still on the commercial real estate side. So that was a challenge. I was, and I thought, well, I've been booking a lot of travel. How hard can this be? Well, when you're doing it for somebody else, it's a whole new ball game. I was very worried about how I was going to handle sort of friends and family, and not wanting to do business with friends and not wanting them to feel pressure, that they were going to have to do business with me. So that, it was sort of, I kind of was creating problems that didn't really exist, but I was worried about them. And then the team kind of helped me get through it. I think I was a little bit famous within the program because I wouldn't do anything until I was fully set up. I mean, I wanted to have my systems in place, and I took that really seriously because it's project management, and I didn't want to make a mistake. So I was a little slow out of the box.
A little bit of perfection paralysis going on there.
Yeah, but I wanted to have everything, I had really good systems with, like, for example, doing Walmart deals, and I knew that it's not all that different. The workflow, it's step. And I wanted to have all that set up, and I wanted to have all of my letters already written in, templates and everything.
Yes,
I just
totally
wanted to done. I turned down some really big business right out of the door that I just thought, this is a 5-figure trip. I would love to do it for you. Call me next year. I'm not ready.
Yeah, I'm just not ready, but I will be ready next year when you want to do the next trip.
Exactly.
I love that. You know what I love what you're saying? It's refreshing to hear is how sacred you're holding like other people's money. I think there is an absolute blind spot to that in our industry, in terms of people really like. I think you're identifying a frustration I've had with like the generic or typical travel agent, is that they just want to get something booked. I mean, that was my experience when I worked with travel agents before I became one. I'm like, I can do a better job. Like, I remember going to a travel agency, thinking about my honeymoon, and I left there with a brochure of like tour packages, and I'm like, like, where is the thought going on here?
There isn't any thought. There isn't any thought. And I was passionate about this in my commercial real estate days.
Yeah.
All I really had, because I didn't own anything, was people's trust in me and my relationships and my reputation. And so you can do it for 30 years, but then if you screw something up and you make it about you and not about the client, guess what? There goes 30 years of a great reputation. And it's really hard to fix that. And I feel the same way about this. Somebody is trusting you with their valuable vacation time with a lot of money. I mean, a lot, and how much money it is depends. I mean, that's, to the client, but it's significant to them and it's valuable to them, and they're trusting you with that. And I really try very hard never to make it about me. I jokingly, I'd had partners that would say, so what's the commission on this real estate deal? And I would be like, I don't know. I kind of know what the level is. I said, but if you put a gun to my head and ask me what the amount is, I can't tell you, because then that makes it about you. And I never wanted to be that way. Now, as a business owner, I've had to sort of focus on that a little bit more. I just can't, ignore things. But I don't know what the dollar amount is until the trip is booked and client's happy. And I'm trying, I always tried very hard not to make decisions, that impact me. Yeah. And I try to be transparent with clients with that too, that they understand how this works.
I think you just shared something that's really, really, really important. And that is, you do have to be focused on, as a business owner, you do have to be focused on your numbers and figuring out how to grow your revenues faster than your expenses. Right. But when you're actually working with your client and in your design phase and even booking phase, you need to be wearing a different hat. And I think that's what you're saying, is you put on the I am your advocate, I am your advisor hat when you're working with your clients. You're not going to, steer them in one direction because you're going to get more commission on that booking if they get steered in that direction. It has nothing to do with that. You don't see the dollar sign on their head.
And my fiduciary responsibility is to my client. And that's where my background in commercial real estate comes in handy, because it's the same thing. I mean, I had a fiduciary responsibility, and I it's just been how I've operated for 30 years. You can't change. At least I can't.
Yep. So let's talk about building your book of business, because you are now in phase 4 of the business, which is ultimately the final destination. I mean, it doesn't mean you stop, and you probably want to continue to grow. But how, everybody wants to know, how did you attract clients? How did you get, these great clients to start working with you? What was your strategy?
My strategy I learned in the MBA program, which was I am the brand. People are coming to me because they want to work with me, or they know me, so that was, people started coming in that way. We traveled a lot personally. And I'm very active on social media. So I was always posting where we were, what we were doing, and long before I even started this professionally, people would call and I'd be like, oh, you have to go here. We just went, it was great. And people would do exactly what I told them to do. And then it was, so that was sort of fun, but it grew organically. I am out there with social media a lot more, probably, I was out there a lot, but I'm more intentional about it now. And if I do something that's really great, I love to share it. I'm very into Africa and safaris, and it's kind of hard not to pick that up from me. So a lot of people are calling me for that now. So I think you sort of, I'm not sure if I'm answering this question correctly, but I think if you're
this is good.
About a specific niche, people want to find out more about that. So I'm never posting deals. I'm not ever saying, hey, so-and-so's having a great sale. I'm like, oh gosh, look at this picture my client just sent me of this elephant that walked right up to the safari truck. I mean, that was like an, oh, wow moment that I had this year when this client sent me this photograph, and I'm like, and I knew they took it with their iPhone. I'm like, are you kidding me? And I've been to Africa a lot, so that surprised me. And so I posted about that, but it's just sort of talking about what you're doing, where you're going, and people are naturally either attracted to that or not. There's an asterisk to that. I have to be careful because I have a lot of people that will come to me and they're like, oh, I just can't afford to travel like you do. And I'm like, believe me, yes, there's travel for every level. This looks, super expensive and exotic, but let's talk about it. It may not be,
right.
We can
right.
make it.
Did you have to learn how to say no?
I don't know if my husband's going to watch this, but he gave me a really hard time in the beginning. And part of it was I was terrified. I really was. I was so worried about screwing stuff up, but I also knew that there were people that we were not going to be able to work together. And that was, I live in a small town. That was really, I used the word terrifying a lot. It was a little scary to me because I don't like to tell people no. And so I had to, and, you have to kind of learn to, to talk to people, to listen to what they want. And for you to go, I'm probably not the best person for that. Why don't you think about doing it yourself? And I'll have, and I'll send you some links and things like that. One of my coworkers, I was driving to Mooresville for my first day at Jumpstart, or I was driving back. I'd already gone to Jumpstart, and we chatted, and I was on the phone with him, and he just started laughing. He goes, "I will never be your client." And I was like, "I know you're never going to be my client." They love to plan their own trips. That's great.
Yeah.
So,
we
talked about that, but
then they might be like one of those people that gets like insanely excited when they get themselves a deal, when they find the deal, and they like, figure out all these different loopholes to, double dip or triple dip.
And that's the fun part. And I knew those people, so I was turning down a lot of business, and I would grab my husband and I go, hey, read this, because people inquire by emails, like, read this email. I don't want to be rude, and I don't want to, but I know that this will never work. He got kind of sick of that. And he's like, you're going to have to start doing some business with people. And I was like, I will. And I did. And I remember, I guess it was you that was always saying you sort of have to leave room for your real client, but it is very tempting in the beginning to just grab every trip.
And business that comes your way because you're so excited, and like you said, you don't want to disappoint someone, and you think, oh, if they're bringing me this, they're trying to do me a favor. It's going to be really rude if I'm like, no, thank you.
Yeah, and that's exactly what happened. I had that happen a couple times. I was like, sure, I'm they were so excited to support me, and I was like, great, I'll help you work on this, and I did, and I had a couple of instances where I spent probably 20 hours per trip on trips that, at the end of the day ended up being, Airbnb. And I learned a lot from that, just taking on a couple of those. And then, it's like,
you do have to, it's part of like, almost like, the pledging phase, right? Sometimes you do have to have like those bad experiences so you never do it again. And you get better and better at saying no.
Yeah, I didn't even consider it to be a bad experience. It was frustrating, but then I look back on it, I learned so much from those 20 hours, of planning this trip. It ended up not working out. If I looked back, the signals were there that this was never going to be a trip either. So there's no wasted effort in anything. I had for anybody that's listening, I had an intake call this week with some people that I know. I could tell within the first 5 minutes of the phone call when I sort of explained, they told me what they want, then I sort of explained about how a yacht charter really works and all of the hidden fees, and just let's talk about the exchange rate, let's talk about VAT, let's talk about the provisioning of the yacht. So your budget is great, but it's not going to get you what you want. So I could tell that I lost them right off the bat, and we spent 45 minutes just catching up on other stuff. It was fun. We just segued into, I'm a horse person, they're a horse person, so we started talking about horses. It was great. So it was a fun conversation. So I'm always happy to do that. And then I didn't tell them no. It's just I could sort of just tell that, by explaining how this all works, that I just blew their budget.
Yeah.
And they,
So yeah, that reminds me of years ago, there was someone in the gift community. This was before we even started GTN, who had transitioned from, she was a CPA accountant, and her first year she was just selling travel part-time. By her second year, when she decided to leave her job, her full-time job, and be committed to selling travel on a full-time basis, she also made the decision, I am not selling 3 or 4 star. I'm going to go all in on the luxury side. It's 5-star only. And I loved what she shared with us, that she would say to the client is that, it's just not my expertise, right? Like I can't make it a better experience because I don't have the relationships. I don't have the knowledge base. I don't have the wisdom on the 3 and 4 star things that you want to do, because that's where your budget is right now. Mm-hmm. Another thing that she would say is like, it's a little bit like walking into a Mercedes dealership and having a budget for a Toyota. And I would be more than happy to sell you a Mercedes. I can't sell you a Toyota because I don't know the Toyota product the way I know the Mercedes product. But if that's your budget, then you really should go visit the Toyota dealership.
I've heard that analogy. It makes a lot of sense. It really does. I haven't used it yet.
Yeah.
That does happen. I've got some friends right now that are in Italy, and she came to me. She's one of the people. She said, "I can't afford you," and I'm like, "Well, yeah, you probably can," but she wanted to do it herself, and she got really into it. And we've been texting all week, and she's having a fabulous time in Italy. I mean, I gave her some ideas of where to go. I sent her some resources. She did the whole thing herself. She actually found a really cool hotel. I was like, "Hey, when you get back, I want to hear about that hotel because it looks like something that I would probably book." It's fun to still kind of work with people, even though you're not taking them on as clients. I did use a phrase last night, travel malpractice, because somebody asked me to do something that I am so unqualified to do. And I put that in an email to her. I said, I would be committing travel malpractice if I attempted this for you. And I asked her some questions. I said, I'll try to help you. I said, but I am not your person. I don't even know how to do that.
Do you think there is a person that exists for it? Because I really hope she doesn't take it to somebody else who doesn't have the ethical standards.
They're moving to Europe, and so it's really not vacation. I mean, it's travel related. Okay. Yes, they have to get on an airplane, and it involved bringing animals like cats.
Okay.
Yeah. Now I can ship a horse anywhere in the world, but that's cargo. This is a different story. And I was like, wow, I really wish I could help you, but I have no clue where to even start with that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, honestly, what comes to mind is that I've been seeing these emails for Expatsy. Mm-hmm. It's this new company that helps people who are looking to live abroad, travel there to check things out, to search for homes to rent. Anyway, I don't know. That could be a possibility.
I'll have a conversation with her. I'll try to help her out. But last night I was like, I was a deer in headlights. I was like, I don't know how to do
this. So let's talk about your horse passion. How have you always been into horses? Is it something that you and your husband have done since you started raising the kids? Like, where does that come from?
Gosh, Saint Sam, that's my husband. I got into horses when I grew up in New Jersey and New York. When I discovered at the Museum of Natural History, because my grandparents lived in Manhattan, that I could not have a dinosaur as a pet. I guess I was 5. And so then you just segue into horses. And, I'm the little girl that never got over it. And Sam had never even contemplated horses as being a part of his life. And we had, he bought me a horse when we were dating, which my parents were just like, thought was hilariously funny. His boss at the time, who I eventually was on the board of the Atlanta steeplechase with, very famously sat back and said, Sam, you think you're the smartest person in the world right now. I got to tell you, you have really screwed up badly. So poor Sam ends up owning a horse farm. At one point, we had 18 horses. I was a commercial thoroughbred racehorse breeder. It was, and I would just look at him, was like, did you ever think that this was going to be part of your life? And he said no. And he's not a horse person, but he does like them. I don't think he likes the expense, but I've scaled that way down now. Because, like I said, I'm either all in with something or I'm not. So I'm very passionate about, Travelera and growing this company. So the horses have sort of taken very much a back seat to that right now.
Have you been to the National Stud Farm in Ireland?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I would imagine that you would just be all over geeking out. Or maybe not. Maybe it's like, an everyday thing for you.
It got to be a bit much, and we sold the last racehorse in March. And I had told my accountant before, I was like, we're done. And then we bought another one, and now we're really done. So I just have my personal horses. And when the kids were young, they rode. So it was a big part of our lives. But travel was something that we really wanted to do, and now that's, instead of me talking about horses nonstop, now I'm talking about travel nonstop. I'm very one-dimensional. So,
and have your connections in the horse racing world helped you on getting clients, or not really? Or
it's interesting. Half my friends are horse people, and the other half are commercial real estate people. So that's sort of my. And then we live in Aiken, South Carolina, which is a very horsey town. There, we have racehorses here. If in the spring and the fall, I can drive 2 minutes down the road. There's 3 polo games going on. There's huge horse show facilities.
Right.
Walk across the street, and the horse district is right over there. And even though we live in the city, it's very horsey. So a lot of my safari business that I'm doing always includes a riding component. And so
I love that you do that. So talk a little bit more about that. When you take groups on safari and you take them to places in southern Africa.
No, we go. I focus on Kenya for that, just because of the.
Okay, you do. Yeah, you go to Kenya, where you get to do a horseback safari.
Yeah, and I haven't. That's been interesting because just about everybody I knew had done, like the point-to-point mobile riding safari, where you're in the tack all day, they're moving the camp, and I sort of missed that boat. And then if your family doesn't ride, a lot of times a lot of people can't do that sort of a safari because their husband doesn't ride or is not a good enough rider to gallop confidently away, from an elephant. So kind of what I've really focused on are the groups where, half the people can ride, do their game drive in the morning on horseback, and then we all meet for breakfast. Or if we're riding in the afternoon, we meet for sundowners, and everybody's having a great experience. Nobody's losing out. The husband's not stuck in the safari truck moving camp while, and it's usually the wife, or the girls that are riding. So I focused on that, and it's interesting because the groups have been half commercial real estate people and half riding people so far.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, just for people I know. So and they all blend really well together. And some of them are commercial real estate people that also ride. But that I didn't think I was going to be able, and this is where GTN comes in. I was on a phone call. It was the sales IQ call. And a safari operator that I knew was coming to town. They were actually going to stay with us and do, their kind of dog and pony show that they do in the off season. And I was just planning on handing out business cards, and I was going to help host it. And I just didn't want to lose a bunch of money and just sort of be standing there handing out business cards. In the course of a 1-hour sales IQ call that I did with the group, I suddenly had the tools to sell a group, which I did. And that's how the first group happened. And it was not even what they were here to talk about. And and so now we're on group number 2, and I'm working on group number 3 with that. I would never have known how to do that if I had not gotten on that one call that day.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, just the resources that we have through GTN are incredible. Yeah. If you will show up and participate, you will learn so much.
Absolutely. I love that. It's turned into a recurring thing. It wasn't just like, you hit a home run, you got the group to go, you had the great idea, and it was a successful idea, but now it's a recurring thing, and I love it. So talk to me about what is, now that you're in year 3 of the business, are you beyond where you thought you would be 3 years ago when you started the journey?
Well,
Are
I
you
was afraid to book a hotel. I think my very first booking was a project expedition that I just sent to somebody. Yeah, it was like it was minuscule. Yeah, I'm way beyond where I thought I would be. The safari groups have introduced me to people that I didn't already know and that have turned into fabulous clients. So that has sort of had grown. I've sort of surprised myself a little bit, with
awesome.
where I am right now. I'm really excited about next year. I'm really excited about it. So, and it's because everything's so different what I'm working on.
Yeah, I love that. So what is your vision for where you want to take the business?
I named myself Travelera Partners because I never envisioned that it was just going to be me. I don't like, I don't like being a solopreneur. Am I saying it wrong? A solopreneur.
No, that's right.
Yeah, solopreneur. I don't hate it. I don't love it. I like to collaborate with people. So my goal for this year would be, I would love to bring in a partner. I've been outsourcing everything I can. So I can manage my volume level where I am comfortably right now, but I suspect that that's going to change. So I would love to have, I'd love to have somebody to collaborate with. I mean, our group is terrific, but they're not like in the next room where I can go, hey, what do you think about this?
Yeah.
And quite frankly, my husband is sick of hearing about it, because I'll be like, Mary, I need you to look, what do you think about this hotel in New Zealand? And he's just like, really? And I'm like, look, I have no one else to talk to right now, and I need a quick read on this. What do you think? Come help.
I love it. So if anybody is listening to this episode and you happen to be somewhere near Aiken, South Carolina, looking for a partner opportunity.
Yeah. Call me.
No,
Call me.
Jackie's taking applications.
I put it on LinkedIn that I was actually going to be looking for some help, and I had to take it down immediately because I got flooded with resumes. And I was like, oh,
yes,
we're about to hit our busy season, so I got to slow down on this a little bit. And that's where the mentors that we have with GTN are so helpful, because I asked for a lot of help. And it's
so you're at the point, you said you outsource as much as you possibly can, but do you have an assistant?
I have, yeah, I do. And I'm about to add a second.
Okay, good.
They're part-time virtual assistants, just for, and I did rely on Lucia, which if you're not in the business, that's a great resource for assistance if you need, like on one-off projects. But I outsourced right off the bat. I had an attorney, I had an accountant, I had a bookkeeper, I had a marketing person that did my website. I had another marketing person that was really looking at kind of what I wanted my brand to be and helping me with that, kind of auditing my social media. I'm about to formally bring on somebody to do my social media, even though I've kind of enjoyed doing it. I need help with that. Did I say bookkeeper? Yeah, bookkeeper.
No, you didn't say bookkeeper, but that's amazing.
Yeah, and she's here in town, and she comes over, and we sit down together, and it's probably something I could figure out myself, but she can do it in a fraction of the time that I can do it. So I try to be protective of what I'm good at, and then what I'm not good at. And there's things that you like to do and things that you don't like to do. So I'm trying to hand off the things that either I'm not the best qualified person to do it, or that somebody can do it better and faster than me.
I love that. That is a very, most people make the mistake of not doing that. They look at it from the perspective of, well, if I can do it, I might as well do it. Why pay someone to do it? And that's just the wrong way to look at it. You've got the right philosophy on that for sure, because what is that saying? Penny wise, pound foolish. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, I had a situation over the summer where I had my busiest week ever, And my assistant had, a family tragedy that took her out. And I found myself working 16-hour days. And you do that 10 days in a row. And, I just couldn't do it. So you have to do it. You can't not do it. So everything that I could hand off, I was handing off. And I even, I keep talking about Sam. I mean, Sam was head of real estate credit for Wells Fargo for decades. I had him auditing trips. I was like, here, these people are getting ready to go out the door. I need you to look at this.
Make sure everything's there.
Well, he's the banker. He's the credit guy. His skill set's fantastic, with very detail oriented. I was like, please, can you help me do this? And he very graciously did. So
yeah, love it. All right. Well, we are getting really close to the end of this time. So I want to end with my favorite question. Well, first of all, before I ask you my favorite question, I'll ask you my second favorite question, which is, we believe that when you have, freedom, fulfillment, and financial satisfaction in your business, that's when you've achieved entrepreneurial success. How would you rate those 3 F's? How would you rate your sense of fulfillment, your sense of freedom or flexibility, being able to live the life that you want to live, how you want to live it, and financial satisfaction? Those are the 3 F's.
I feel really lucky. I mean, I had no idea this was, I did kind of have an idea. If you put the energy behind something, it's always going to work out for you. I love what I'm doing. I really do.
Yeah.
I'm traveling a ton, which is great. I'm able to manage the workload. So and it's very fulfilling.
Very, very fulfilling. I love it. Love it. Love it. That's exactly what we want. We want people to have a business that is thriving and rewarding, but also a life that they love. And you said it already. So, all right. So my favorite question is, please identify a travel experience that you've been able to have since you started this business, where you had multiple moments where you're just like, pinch me, I can't believe I get to do this for a living.
Can I do 2? I have 2. Can I do 2?
Go for it.
Okay. Yeah. So the first one, I was able to go with Wilderness last year to Botswana. And that was, and I'd been on fam trips before back, in my first, version of being in the travel business, but going to Botswana, being flown by helicopter from fabulous lodge to fabulous lodge. And again, we were only staying there one night, so it was a lot of work, but those experiences were just incredible. And I just couldn't believe it. I really could. I was like, wow, I get to do this. It's great. And then I get to come back and tell people about it.
Yeah. Yeah. Like so you were literally doing that, as a reconnaissance.
Yeah, it's my thing. Yeah, my old business trips used to be getting on a plane and flying to Dallas. Look at this. Or LaGuardia. I used to be on the Tuesday morning flight to LaGuardia every week.
Oh God.
As my youngest would say, this is much more better. So that was much more better. The second one was the safari group that I did in June. And you're taking all these people. It's a lot of money. You're going with them. And the trip went great. Everybody got along. Everybody loved it. Everybody was just having such a wonderful time.
Yeah.
And that, to me, I'm like a pat on the back person. To me, that's more important than money. So that just went great. And I was so nervous about it before we went, and it was flawless. And we had such a great time. So everybody, we're staying another week because I'm going to go look at resorts in Zanzibar. Everybody else, we've had our final dinner. We had a great afternoon. This was so wonderful. And my husband and I got up to the hotel room because he came with me. And I just looked at him and I went, we did it, or I did it. Can you believe this, how well this went? Not 2 minutes later, my phone blew up. Everybody's flights got canceled out of Nairobi.
Oh my God. You shouldn't have said it. You need to wait one more day to celebrate.
Oh no, we got everybody out that night, but I immediately was like, took off the, you're so wonderful hat and got on the phone with the hotel. And I'm like, okay, we now need these rooms overnight, and getting on the phone with, Air France and figure out what the heck had just blown up. It was just funny. Yeah. So, but it was.
Yeah, that's the uncontrollable is the airlines Can't
Yeah.
control what happens there.
No, you can't.
But we can step in to assist, which is what you're supposed to do. So you did what you're supposed to do.
Well, we got it done. And, but the good thing is, I came home from that trip and my clients sent me an aura frame with all of their photographs. And probably for a month after that trip, I would just sit and look at the frame and look at these pictures and what a great time we had. And I would just be like, oh, this was so great. I can't wait to do it again next year.
Yeah. So your URL is travelerapartners.com.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're listening and you actually want Jackie to help you plan your next travel, she can be reached. Go to her website, or it's just Jackie at travelerapartners.com.
Mm-hmm. Jackie at travelerapartners.com. The website is travelerapartners.com. And if you even Google my name, I'm really easy to find from the horse business. So my phone number's there.
Okay. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being a guest on today's episode. It's been really fun diving deep and unpacking your business. And thank you so much for sharing with everybody.
Thank you for having me. This was a lot of fun.
Absolutely. All right, everybody. We'll see you on the next episode.